Hey guys, welcome back to UModeler. In this video, let's go ahead and model a weapon. So it's going to be one of my favorite weapons for one of my favorite games, and the weapon is called a Buster Sword. So let's go ahead and kind of mock out this Buster Sword, and we're just going to kind of go step by step. There is no particular order of what doing things. This is more of a kind of off-the-cuff freestyle of modeling something, kind of as if I was just sitting here and you were just kind of peeking over my shoulder. And so we're just going to kind of walk through it that way. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to start with getting a box here, and I typically when I am modeling, I typically kind of start with the box and start thinking kind of what is the general silhouette of anything that I'm modeling, and then I kind of start there. And so with that, I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing here. And so what now, I'm just trying to figure out what do we want to do here. So I'm going to go here. Now let me go ahead and see if I can do a Shift D, and then I'm gonna go back into my box tool. And what I want to do is now create kind of the blade part. Kind of want to block that out completely. So let's go ahead and zoom out, and I'll just go ahead and let that go. All right, and so that's a great looking blade, but that ain't quite done yet. We just needed to get a sense as to maybe how tall it could be. And then now I'm just going to go down to the bottom. And what I want to do here is actually go ahead and maybe bring that out. Maybe slide these sides here and bring this out a little bit. And again, I'm just kind of eyeballing this, kind of blocking it out based on some image reference that I have here on my other screen. And what I want to do here is go ahead and bring this up here like so. All right, and I think that looks pretty good for what I have in mind. And so what I'm going to do now is, first thing, I'm just going to take my pivot and I'm just going to go ahead and center it. I love using the pivot tool. It's really good. And so what I'm going to do now is duplicate this piece, and I'm just going to bring it down like that. Looks pretty good, right? All right, do a Shift D, get out of that mode and head right back into this. Go back to my box tool. And so what I want to do here is create the center part that's going to connect these two pieces together. And there we have it. And so that's going to be like that. I'm going to go and change my perspective a little bit. All right, looks pretty good. Again, just kind of blocking it out, just trying to get a sense as to what this could look like. Let's see here. All right. And so what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and expand this part here just a little bit, and I'll go ahead and pull that out. And again, this is not 100% accurate, but we're going to get as close as we can just to block out this guy. All right, cool. All right, so the next thing I want to do is block out the handle. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to go back here. And this time I'm going to go into my cylinder, and I'm just going to kind of click somewhere in the center. We can move it here in a minute, and we want the handle to be maybe about that big, and we can just bring it right down. So yeah, the handles are pretty long with the Buster Sword, so I think this will probably be a decent length, and let's go ahead and do that. And then I'll go ahead and move this guy. I'm going to kind of center it as much as I can here. Center this here just like that. So that looks pretty decent. All right, not too shabby, I would say. And because I think... So let me go ahead and actually copy and paste this, because I know there's another part that I want to add to the bottom of this here. And I'll go ahead and center that pivot point, change that. I'm going to bring that there just like so. And what I want to do is do this, and I want to take the center of this, bring it in, and then extrude it out. Awesome. All right, so we have something there, probably a little bit more detailed than I would want to do even at this stage, but that's completely fine. And then what I'll go ahead and do is copy and paste this guy and bring it up some, right at the edge there. And then for this piece, what I'm going to do actually is just simply delete those faces, because I don't need those, and just so that we can see what happened. We just deleted those faces, and that's the inside of it. And so we can leave it just like that. That's completely fine. No need to change that at all. And we can just do it like that. So I'll just kind of go back. All right, great. And so now we have that there. We have that there. And we have a general shape there. So now I'm going to take my attention to the blade. And so what I'll do is go ahead and move this guy down a little bit. And as you can see, the iconic look. And now with that being slanted, I'm just going to go ahead and bring that up just a little bit. And it looks like we have some errors here. Not really errors, just some warnings. Don't really need to worry about those. All right, and so now we have something a little bit more resemblance of what we would expect that to look like. Pretty cool. All right. All right, so now that we've done this, there's a couple more things I might want to do, but before I do that, let's take a look at the part on this sword. Now, on this particular sword, there is an area of the weapon where there's some holes here, and those holes actually serve a purpose in the game. If they use something called materia, so what we're going to have to do is create those sections. So there's a couple ways we can approach this. I'm going to take a rectangle though, and I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to my world snapping, leave that like that, and I'm going to take this and kind of bring it up like maybe about that height. And so we're going to kind of do that. And then what we're going to do is make sure that it's in the position we want. So we want it kind of centered with this handle here. All right. And so now that we have that kind of done like that, I'm going to use the push pull tool and just push a hole right through there, just like so. All right. All right. So that's pretty good there, right? And so the next thing I would want to do is I'm going to actually create a separate piece just to serve in that centered area. Now what I can do is go ahead and I can leave these here or I can delete them. It's completely up to you. I'm not opposed to it. I guess we can make that decision. But for now, let's go ahead and I'll just leave them for now. I can always remove those later. And so what I'll do is now go in and I'm going to use my box tool and I'm going to create this section here like so. All right, and what I'm going to do now is kind of just bring this guy over here to the center, to those edges, and then I'm going to kind of bring it out just enough. All right, just enough. All right, and so now I'm just going to bring this out like so. It's looking pretty decent, I would say pretty decent, not too bad. And kind of eyeballing it here, but it's not too bad. All right, and so now what I want to do is the goal is to put a hole through these guys. Now UModeler has some great tools for this type of thing, so I'm going to use the disc tool along with the push pull tool. And so what I'm going to do is create a disc hole here and a disc hole here, just like so. All right. And I'm going to kind of shift it up a little bit, and that should give me kind of what I'm expecting. It's not too bad. And then I'm going to use this push-pull tool to kind of push through. All right. And so now what we're doing is kind of getting this illusion that we have a hole through this. So I think that is looking pretty decent there. And so we're kind of getting that iconic look already, and it's already kind of shaping up to be pretty cool, right? All right, cool. So at this point now, I would say that we're almost completely blocked out. We've kind of gotten all the basic shape here, and it doesn't take too much long. That doesn't take that long using UModeler. But let's go ahead and start refining maybe the sword a little bit. All right, so what I'm going to do with the sword so that we can get the sharp edge is I'm going to get my loop cut tool and I'm going to go ahead and click right there, just like so. And you would think you would take this center one and just like, let's make it sharper. But that's not actually how I want it to go. So what I want to do, on the contrary, what I want to do is take this edge on the outside and actually bring it in. Because what we don't want, we want this edge and this edge all to be continuous, like to make sure it's still even. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull that in like so. And I'm going to pull it in so far to where it ends up right about here, just like that. And the reason is because the actual Buster Sword, what it does is the way it works is this side here, the back side of it is like a dark color, and then this side here is going to be your sharp like white edge where you're actually cutting stuff. So that's going to be like the way we're going to kind of UV it, texture it, that sort of thing. All right, so that's great. So now we're starting to get some edges here. And so what we want to do now is go ahead and work on these two verts up here. And I'm going to go ahead and bring these guys down a little bit. I want to kind of evaluate kind of the best way to approach this part, because really what's going on is that the sword kind of comes to an end, like right at this point like that. So in reality, you actually could bring it in, and let me go ahead and get off of the snapping. And then you can actually bring it in. Let me go ahead and put this on centered as well. Bring this guy in like so. So this is gonna kind of come to us like a point. So we can go that route. And so that looks, I guess, accurate, right? I would say that that looks pretty accurate. It kind of gets wide in here, kind of comes in. And something else I want to add is a little bit of additional cuts here. So I want this cut, I want to cut across here. And so if you notice it's green and then all of a sudden it's going to be red, it's going to get us a straight line. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that there like that. And then when you're using a cut, you can cut across multiple ones, and when it's red it means it's a straight line. So I'm gonna cut there like so, and then I'm just gonna connect it to the other side. Awesome. All right, so now we kind of have the Buster Sword there, and we have that edge. And you can kind of see that edge kind of show up. It's working out pretty good. Now, what we could do to make it a little bit more obvious is we could take these here and kind of pull them out a little bit, just enough so that it kind of shows up when the light hits it, and we're still good to go when it comes to the sword there. Awesome. All right. And so far, we're kind of doing pretty good with kind of getting a good idea of what this is supposed to look like. And that's pretty good for our block out. We're not completely done yet. So let's go ahead and head over to this section here. And so we pretty much blocked out, but there's some other things that we could do to kind of add a little bit more detail to that. So let's go ahead and click on these edges here. And what I'll do is put a bevel on it. Let's see if it actually bevel. And so it does bevel. We have a little bit of an issue here, right, with the way that went about this here. So I'll try to see if we can solve that problem. But I do want to put a little bit of bevel on there. And let's see what else. Let's see if we can solve that. So if I click there and let's see, I'm going to go ahead and hide this. And I'll just go ahead and hide it for now. And all right, so now we have that. So what I'll do is we have these lines in here. We don't need this loop. So I'm going to select those and hit delete. And what I can do is probably select these and hit a bevel on that as well. Not sure if that'll actually help. It could help a little bit. And so let me go ahead and turn this on, and then we can still kind of mess with our bevel there. All right. And so it seems to be working out pretty good for our use case. All right, so that works out pretty good, not too bad. And so that's because this piece on the reference has a bevel, and so it's also a little thinner, so we could actually reduce it a little bit so it gets a little closer to the blade. So that works out good, and we can kind of change that as needed. Let's see here. What else could we do? All right. All right. So we pretty much have our base here. And so now let's start taking a closer look at maybe this area here. And so what I want to do is grab all the edges, and I want to start adding in a little bit of details. And what that means is I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of bevel on those edges, because this is pretty much low poly work here. No, there's no sculpting I'm going to do. And so what I want to do is just kind of do that. And I like adding a little bit of bevel to these sharp edges. And because of that, I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste this one in just so I can make sure that those are the same. And I'll do the same for this guy. So I'll just go ahead and select all those edges, and I'll just go ahead and put a nice little bevel on there as well, so that we can kind of get that kind of cleaner. The light will hit it a little better, as you can see there. All right, and I have a feeling I'm gonna redo this, but this is just blocking out, so it kind of gives you an idea of what you plan to do. So that really works out. All right, and so next we can take a look at this here where I'm thinking that maybe there's some additional details that I want to add. And so what I'll do is go ahead and do a Control D. I'm going to add in another box here. Oops, got the wrong tool selected. So let's go ahead and get out of that. I'll hit delete, go back, and I'll go ahead and hit box. And I'm going to do this here. So then we have this here. So then I'll go ahead and go into face mode and do this. Now what I want to do is make sure it's in the right spot before I extrude this guy out. All right. And then we have this here like so. And bring that like that. And so now what I want to do is select this. I'm going to do an inset, and that's going to be in this area here in my add area. And I'm just going to create an inset just like that, just to make sure it's even all the way around. And what I want to do next is go ahead and on these corners, actually I'll take that back. Before I do the inset, let's go ahead and select the corners first. It's going to be a much better look and feel if I do it this way. And then I do the bevel like so. There we go. All right. So now we're adding a little bit of detail. Now I'll just go ahead and do my inset, and there we go. There. Awesome. All right. And with that inset, what that's going to allow me to do is I'm just going to kind of bring it up just a little bit, just like so, just to give it a little bit of height there, to add a little bit of more details to this guy. Again, it may not be the most accurate, but we're just trying to add in all of those details to really kind of sell the idea that this sword is kind of in this here. It's all built into that pretty well. All right. And then the next thing we want to do is go ahead and look on the side here. Now on the side is going to be these little circular objects here. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and go into my shapes, and I think I'll use an icosphere. I could do a sphere, but let's just see. If I do an icosphere, I don't know, I just like these, but they may not be the best choice for now. So let's go with that and just kind of get a sense. Is this the right choice? Could be. Let's see here. It may not be. Now that's what the icosphere will look like. Now, of course, you can smooth it to where it's not, that it's not so like round. So I kind of like the way that looks when it's smooth. So I think I'm going to stick with that. We can always change that out. So what I'll do is now go ahead and do that. Now we need 5 of these, and there's 1 in the center. So let's go ahead and do this. And I think my center, I'm going to have to fix this here. So I just want to make sure that this is all centered as much as possible. And I want to make this a little bigger, just like so. And I want it to kind of be in there halfway. You could theoretically delete half of it. I don't think I'll do that, but we could do that. It just depends. So what I'll do is do this. And I do think they might be a little bigger than I would want, but let's just kind of get a sense first before we commit to the other side. I think they're a little too big, personally. So what I'll do is delete these, and I'll go ahead and reduce the size and bring that down. So now we can kind of get an idea that that's going to kind of look kind of like that. So what I'll do now is zoom in and just go ahead and make my copies. All right, pretty cool. And I'll just copy these guys over. All right, now it's not perfectly centered. Let's just kind of get a sense as to how that's going to look. And it's not too bad. It's not too bad. I think they're a little rounded, a little too rounded, I would say. So what I think I'll do is kind of squat them a little bit, kind of do something like that, like they're round, but not quite. Yeah, what do you guys think? Pretty good? All right, and so I'll just go ahead and boop, boop, boop. All right, so we kind of move that there. It's not too bad. I would say it's not too bad. Cool. All right, so basically we want to take the same objects and put them on the other side, and we can just kind of do that. There's other ways to kind of approach duplication. In this case, I'm just going to move them, and we can go different ways to do that. As you can see, something's off here. I'm just going to make sure that this is in a centered position as much as possible. And we have these guys. We want to just make sure that those are also centered. Cool. All right. So we're making some good progress here. So that's looking pretty spiffy. All right. And so now what I'm going to go ahead and do is make some changes to this area here. So what I'll do is, because I want like it to look a little different. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to create another shape in this area. Pretty much the same shape, but what I want to do is bring this guy up and I'm going to bring this out. All right, so next I'm going to go ahead and create a bevel, and I'll just go ahead and do that. And I'll just go ahead and go into this view so I can see, and I'll bring it up. And this is going to be me just kind of putting things kind of in place, kind of what I expect to see with this here. So just kind of bringing it just close enough to where I need it. I think that is looking swell, close. Pretty close. All right, great. So the reason I'm redoing this is because I want a ridge around this guy. I don't think we're going to get into too much detail here, but I do want a ridge around it. And so what I'm going to do is go to my inset tool and I'm going to create that like that. Now, I don't know if I want bridge like that, and so I'll just do that. And as you can see, bridge got rid of those edges that was connecting those together. I don't think there's anything wrong with keeping them. I think it's more of a matter of choice, but personally, maybe we'll keep them. Maybe it is better. It's probably better. Let's leave them. All right, so I'm going to leave those bridge on, and then I kind of want that right on the edge of this piece here, and that looks pretty good. All right, great. And so what I'll do is select this piece, and I'll just go ahead and delete this back portion because I don't want to redo it on the other side. Instead, I'm going to use the mirror tool to fix that. And so we'll just kind of center that like so, select it in the object mode, and then I'll go ahead and go to my modifier stack here, go into mirror, and what we want to do is mirror on the Z, and I'm going to go in the side view so we can see it, and you can kind of move this, and you can see that's kind of the center of what I want, just like that, and then we can just go ahead and collapse it, and so we should have the same thing on both sides, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see here. Yep, we should have both. Yeah, we do. And that's exactly what I expected to happen. So that's pretty good. And so now what I'm going to do is just kind of select these vertices and get as close as I can to that edge as well, so it can kind of look like it is there. All right, great. All right, so the next thing I want to do is go ahead and take this here, and I want to now create the holes for this object. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and take this disk, and I'm just going to go into this front view, and we're going to do our best to create some holes here. And I'm going to actually change the segments to something like 20, something a little higher. Gives us a little bit more space there. So that kind of works just like that. And I'll do the same thing here. So let's see. All right. And I'll just go ahead and see if these are the same size. That is almost spot on. I'm like a robot. All right. All right. Cool. All right. And so now we have that there, and that is going to be where these little interior slots would go. All right. And that's looking pretty good, I would say. So the reason, like I said, is just to give it more detail, because what my goal is to actually extrude this out a little bit. Right, so I kind of want to take this here. We can do one or two things. We can either extrude this out, which I don't want to do. What I actually want to do is, I can do it, I just want to reduce this a little bit. I don't want to move it completely. I want to select all these, and I actually might redo that, but we'll see. Take this out like that, and then take my edges, and I want to extrude that to the edge that I was thinking. So that just means that what I'm going to do is take this. I'm going to go even closer to the base of this here. Then I'll deselect these, then extrude to that edge that I wanted. And that's kind of what I was thinking. So that's going to give me a bit more detail as to what I was looking for. So I kind of like that. And then last but not least, we would want to punch a hole through here. That's kind of the idea. So that's pretty cool. Now, obviously, I don't have that same scenario on this side. What I could do is I can eyeball it. I mean, there's different ways. I could cut this in half. Well, let me show you the more technical, probably the more accurate way maybe of doing it is I would say you could cut it to where you get rid of like the whole other side. So we would say use the slice tool. So I could use the slice tool and I can say, okay, I'm gonna cut this guy completely in half. And instead of split only, you can do like split and remove below or above. Now that one's below, so we do above. And so now we actually cut it and got rid of it. I'm not saying that's the best method. I'm just saying that that's one way to go about it. And then you could, let's see what it left behind. So it left behind a face here, and that may not be wanted, right? So instead, what I can do, and there's also some bottom faces that we can get rid of because we don't need those. Same thing with the top as well. We don't really need those. You can't see it. All right. And then we could, actually, I'm gonna keep them. Yeah, we'll keep all that. All right. So yeah, we'll keep these faces. Yeah. All right, so then what we can do is do a mirror tool. And the goal here is so that we don't have to kind of remake the whole thing. So go back into the side view and then go ahead and bring this guy as close as we can, right where we need it, just like that. And then we can collapse and we should be good to go. And so now we have something that's way more detailed than this one, I would say. Now, if you see here in the center, it's not, the vertices need to be welded. So we can do one or two things. We can just kind of go back, like undo our change and make sure that we're close enough so that so that we don't have to run into that issue. I think that's probably the better route to go, I think. And then I will just take what I need and bring it out where I need it. So just like so. Just kind of just like that. I think that's probably the better way to approach it. Awesome. All right. So then we have that. And so now we have a way more detail in that than this. And it's a bit more, I would say, accurate, I guess. Pretty good. Awesome. All right. So I think what we're going to do is actually add a little bit more detail to this area here. And so what I'll do is go ahead and go here and see what we can add. So in this area here, because this is a Buster Sword, there's some intricate detail, and I wouldn't say intricate, but it's a specific detail that's based on the design of the actual game, and they kind of integrated it into way of the shape itself. And so I want to make sure at least that I try to put that in. And so what I'll do here is gonna approach this in an interesting way, I think. So I'm going to get a box because everything is great with boxes. And I'm going to pull this guy out like so. And I'm going to take this face and kind of bring it up to the top. And I'll just go ahead and pull this over. And we're going to kind of use this. It's going to kind of be, I guess, kind of like a we're going to kind of use it to gauge what we need to do here. So I'll just kind of bring that in like so. All right, and grab the face. I'm going to go to this side here. All right, so I want to do is basically, I want to make another circular shape here, but I'm going to use the arc tool. And so I want to kind of make sure that this is at the center of these circles here. All right, and then I'm going to grab my arc tool. So I'll make sure that that's there, grab my arc tool, and I want to click and drag, and then we're going to make sure that this circle is almost identical. And I think that's pretty close, not too bad. I think that is good. And I'm going to click, and then we have a circle. And I'm going to do the same thing for this one. Click, let go. And when you move your mouse, you kind of want to move this way. It can kind of go anyway, but we want to just make sure it's kind of like this. And that seems about right. I think eyeballing it, that's not too bad. All right, awesome. Okay, so we want to continue this though. We need another circle. So we're going to kind of go a little further away from this edge, and I'm going to click and I'm going to kind of bring it here, just about right there. And I'm going to let this go. And I'm going to kind of put it out there like that. And I would say that that's pretty close. I could probably get it a little better. Let's just try it one more time just for good measure here. Click, and let's see, that's pretty good. All right, that's not too bad. And so we'll click, and then we'll let that go. All right, and we'll do the same thing here. All right, So we're going to click, let go, not too shabby there. And so we just want to make sure that that's as round as the other. Awesome. All right. And so now we have these shapes, and the goal is to be able to select them just like so. And so what we want to do now is use the push pull tool, right? And I'm going to click and push through, click and push through. And that's really what we needed to do, but we need to take it one step further, click and push through, click and push through. Great. And so now what we have here is we have this, and the goal is for it to look a little like that. It's little details there. So now what I want to do is take this and kind of bring it up, and take this, and this one's okay. Leave that one down there. And I think it's a little further, too far out. I don't want it that far out, so I'm going to select this whole side here, and it's actually supposed to be deeper, like in this point, like kind of like this, to where it's in here but not quite out here. So we want to kind of make sure that you can see the differences between this edge and this edge. So that's pretty good. All right, so far so good, and so that's pretty great. And so what we want to do now is get rid of this edge here. So what I can do is take this, kind of bring it out to like that point, and I could actually bevel that side so that it kind of goes in and you don't really see it. At least that's the goal. So we can kind of bring this in that, and we can bring this down a little bit. Awesome. All right, that's not too bad. All right, and so now that's much closer to what I am thinking, and it adds so much more extra detail, but we're not quite done yet because we need this part here to go away. So what I'm gonna do is actually select this, and I'm gonna connect using that. And the reason I'm doing that, and I'm gonna just show you, if I were to say I wanna get rid of this and I just select, that's not gonna just get rid of that. Or even if I just said, oh, I just wanna get rid of this, it's still gonna get rid of, well, it'll get rid of that. That's one way to go about it, because it cuts it, and that works. That's effective. But what I may need to do is actually take these and go like this, and that's kind of what I'm thinking in terms of this side. I need it to be kind of right there, just like that. So that's kind of one way to go about it. It's kind of effective. Awesome. All right. So that looks pretty good, I would say. And move it just a little bit. Awesome. So that looks pretty good. I think that's almost accurate. And so another thing we want to do is make sure that this center line is not completely centered. So we want to kind of move it kind of like this. So I kind of want that to go like that, and that could work. But before I move that line, let me take these, kind of do that, and then I'll take it and move it over. Awesome. So that should give us that there. All right, great. So that works out pretty good. I would say it's almost accurate. I would say maybe I can take these and actually bring it back to where it lines up with that one. So if I put that about right there, and then I take these and line it up like this, that's probably more accurate, I would say. Let's see. Yeah, maybe that looks pretty good. I think that's pretty good. All right. All right. And so next thing we want to do is make sure that it's mirrored over. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and go to the mirror tool, which is in our modifier list, and I'm just going to do that. Awesome. All right, so now we have this mirror. We all do is put this in the center, and then you have that piece just like that. And so now we have way more detail in this area, and it's a bit more lore accurate, closer to the original concept as well. And I think that's pretty good. I would probably want to push this out just a little bit more, not too much more, just a little bit. Yep, that's pretty good. And I want this. So now with this, what I probably want to do is make sure that it's also duplicated on the other side. So before I do that, I just want to make sure I have all my ducks in a row here. All right, and I want to make sure that that's good. So I'm gonna, there we go. A little bit of movement there. Good. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that is pretty obvious that it goes in. If I must, I can always take this piece and go inward as well, because that'll give us that spacing like so. All right, so what I want to do now is take this piece, go back to the mirror and just go ahead and finish that off. And so now you have your full piece there, and that works pretty good. And so now what I want to do is now mirror it again, but we're going to mirror it on a different axis. So, and we're going to do it on the Z. We're going to bring this out like so. And what we're going to do is go ahead and do the same thing, kind of center it. It's about centered. There you go. Pretty good. I would say so. And there we go. So then you have your shape right where it kind of needs to be. And so now I want to go ahead and collapse it. I think that's okay. We can always make changes to that as needed, but that is pretty straightforward. All right, cool. So yeah, so now I wanted to add that detail. That detail's there, and there's only so many different ways to do things. And so I wanted to kind of approach it that way. Awesome. All right. So what we want to do now is start kind of going into some more details. I think the sword is looking a little bland. Let's add a little bit of flair to the blade itself. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and put the, let's see, what would be good to do? Okay. All right, so on the back of the sword, we're going to have some areas here that are more like design. So let me go ahead and just show you. It's easier to explain, easier to show than to explain. So I'm going to take a box just to give you the idea. And ultimately, the way it works is, the way the sword is kind of designed is it has like this part in the back here, and you kind of take this, and I'm going to take this face and just kind of really close, and then I'm going to come down and do this here at the bottom. And then what ends up happening is it ends up having like this angular design language that kind of goes up here, and it kind of builds on it all the way, almost like technology kind of building up the back of the sword. So what we want to do though now is create that. And they're not just straight lines. So we're going to use the let's see, the polyline tool to kind of create these for us. So let's go ahead and get the polyline tool. I'm going to go into the side view here, and we're going to start. And I do see this. We'll correct that later. That's not a big deal. Actually, let's see if I can fix it now. Actually, before we do that, because I don't want to forget, let's go ahead and I'm going to stop that. I saw this little opening there, and I don't want that to be so obvious. So I'm just going to go ahead and try to hide it just a little bit. Let's see, did that do it? Yeah, just good enough. All right, cool. All right, so what I want to do now is go into the polyline tool and into the side view here. And I'm going to start creating those here. So I'm going to just go ahead and click, and then I'm going to kind of create a line, and then I'm going to create something kind of what I think it kind of would look like. And then I'm just going to kind of go here, and I'm just going to connect this guy there. Boom. So then what I want to do is kind of straighten it out a little bit. So I'm going to go here and go here. I'm going to pull this all the way out to about right, maybe like right there, right? And then I'll bring all of this down just a little bit here. And you can do, if you're following along, you can do it however you want to go about it once you kind of see kind of the output I'm going for, but you can just kind of do this. And I'm just going to tuck this down like so. And I think that should do it for this one. So then I'm going to my face tool, and I'm going to go on the side, and I'm going to pull this guy out like so. Go back into my vertex. And I'm just going to move this over probably about halfway, just so that we can make sure it's about halfway, because we plan to mirror it. So I'm going to take this, and then I'm going to be about right there. Perfect. All right. And so that's the idea behind that. So as you can see, it's kind of creating a nice little edge design there. So what I might want to do is kind of bring it out a little bit more, just a little bit more. If we're being real particular, we could possibly add a bevel, but I don't know if that's really worth it. It may be worth it. It probably is worth it. But I tell you what, I'll probably add that at the end once I see how everything kind of works out. But for now, I think that's fine. And then we're good to go. And so now if we want, we can kind of mess with this a little bit more to kind of tighten it up a little bit. So we can kind of, because we don't want it too big. I just want to kind of make it to where it just feels kind of technical. There we go. All right, cool. All right, nice. All right. And so then that's what we did there. And so now we can kind of continue this. Now, if that's too large, we could bring it down a little bit so that it's not as obvious. Like maybe I want more of this to go, so I want to kind of start maybe lower, right? Cool. So that looks kind of cool, I would say. And so now we want to continue to build these types of shapes onto the side of the sword here. So all we have to do now is go back to Polyline tool and create a new one. And this time we can do something a little different. So what if we can do something like this. And basically I sped the video up here just because there's no need to sit and watch me do the same thing over and over and over again as regard to this here. I would suggest just make up your own idea. Just use the same, if you're following along, just use the same method for each one, and you'll be able to get through it. For the most part, I'm just basically using the polyline tool. And at this point here, I realized that I'm going to use the slice tool because I didn't want that to kind of go through the whole section there. So I cut those up. And now I'm just kind of finishing up here at the end. I'm going to basically line everything up and just make sure everything's there. And just kind of one more design there at the top. And that's pretty much it. Just kind of balancing those off. And that's so, yeah. So that's pretty good. I would say we're done with adding this little side pieces. Kind of make that go like that. I think I went as high as I think I should go. And so now we have a bit more detail on our sword, right? But the other side needs the same thing, but we're not going to do this all. So what we're going to do in this case is I'm going to select all these guys and I'm going to combine them. Now I did notice something right off the gate here. This one is not doing that, and I know why, because because of the way I drew that one. So what I'll do is try to select just those edges, see like how close I can get. Did I do it? Yeah, I think I did it. Cool. All right, so let me go ahead and put them right where they kind of need to be, right? Just want to make sure they're aligned where they need to be. Awesome. All right, so what I'm gonna do is select all these pieces and I'm going to combine them into one. Now that's not a Boolean, it's just basically combining them, and just so you know, you can always uncombine them when you do it that way. And so next, what I'm going to do is do a mirror, right? And we're going to flip it, or let's see, we want to be just like so. And I want to see from the side, just like that. And we just want to get as close as we can to it. Not going to be overly perfect, but let's just see how far we can go. Now, actually, what I want to do, I want to select these vertices on this edge, and I'm going to do this. And that's going to kind of help. It's like a quick little trick where you can kind of just do a quick, like do that, and you can straighten them out. So that helped a little bit. And so if we go back into mirror mode, and so now you can kind of see how they're a little bit straighter, and that's going to help with that. So now if I do combine, what I don't want to see is an edge like that. I don't want to see that. So what I'm going to do is try it again. I'm going to move it just a bit closer, just so that it overlaps just enough to make sure that it welds, I think. And hopefully it does this time, and that is better. Awesome. All right. All right, so the next thing I think we want to do is take a look at the handle of it. So let me go ahead and hit F, and let's take a look at this here. This is going to be pretty simple in comparison to the rest of those things. I believe so. So what we can do here is take this, and I'm going to just bring this down a little bit, and I'm going to, because this part is metal, so what I'll do is take a loop cut, and that's way too many. So you can hold down shift and scroll wheel, and you can do something like that. There's different ways we can approach this. I'm gonna try this first by doing it this way. Now what I can do is, let's see if this actually works. I see. All right, we can do this, and then we can, let's see here. Actually, I think what's happening is I'm going to redo that. And that was a block-in mesh anyway. It just had to give us better sense as to what we needed to create. What I'm going to do is go ahead and recreate this. And this time, I'm going to move it right where I need it and make it a little bigger. And let's get out of this mode here. And I'll just make it a little larger. All right. Kind of eyeball it, kind of get it centered where we need it. It's not too bad, I think. So what I'm gonna do is try the loop cut again, see what's going on. And let's see here. So I'll just take this here, there we go, and kind of bring this up like that. Take this here, kind of bring it down like that. I'm gonna take another loop cut and reduce that, and then I'll go ahead and take this, kind of do something like that. And let's see here, take loop cut and then increase it to 2, and then I'll just go ahead and do and kind of increase it. Now you're wondering why I do that, but because I'm going to do this, take that, and we're going to kind of do that. I think that will do it for trying to make it a little bit more intricate, I think. And then I'll just kind of reduce it to where it looks a little better. Cool. All right, so it looks like a piece of metal, and we'll probably make that silver or some type of color with a material, and we'll probably do that in another video. Let's do the bottom part, and the bottom part is pretty simple, pretty quick, nothing spectacularly important, I would say, other than it is part of the sword handle that just needs to be done like this. And I think, again, this is another piece, so I'm going to delete this piece, and let's go ahead and create another. You can either use the handle, I'll just go ahead and create another cylinder and go ahead and do that again. So I'll do another cylinder, bring that down, pretty good. All right. Who doesn't love cylinders? I'm going to expand that one a little bit. Awesome. All right, and it's not quite centered, but pretty close. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and take this, move this up, and what we want to do is select the face underneath. I'm going to take this, go inward, and then I'm going to extrude it like that, and then I'm just going to taper it in like that. And because I think it's a little small, so just like awesome. So I think I can live with that. It's not terribly, it's not too bad. It sells the idea that there's something at the bottom, and that's the whole point. I want to also maybe put a bevel around that at the bottom. It comes to an edge there. May not be necessary, but it could help add a little bit of detail. Awesome. All right. And if we want, we can take these faces here. I'm going to reset this transform on this object. Let's see here. Okay, and it's probably supposed to be smooth, so let's just see what that looks like. Awesome. Well, guys, I think we can call that sword done. All right, great. So this is the Buster Sword. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it was interesting to kind of see the approach I was solving with some of these problems. It's always good to see things from the beginning to the end. It brings a bit more value and understanding to even your own projects. So great. If you guys enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to stay up to date on the latest so that you don't miss a thing. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.